Hello, my name is Paige. Welcome to my channel. So welcome back to another Clear My Shelves video. This is the second part of the recent reads that I started in this video right here, if you want to check that out. But essentially, I am trying to read at least 5 books in every vlog to clear my TBR shelves that you are currently sitting on right now. And hopefully by the end of the year, my TBR, my physical TBR, will be under 60 books. So we ended off last month with a number that was incorrect. I don't remember what number I told you, but I did realize after editing and uploading it that we had ended on 121 books on my physical TBR. So today we are trying to get under that number. And in this video, we are basically just reading some books that I had that I could not figure out what I wanted the theme to be, and even looking at them all together, I can't think of a theme. So these are just books that I picked up because of my TBR jar, because of book clubs, or just because I was in the mood to read them. So that is why they are in this vlog. I don't have a plan for them, so they are now here. So I'm gonna let you watch all of my clips and reactions to the books that I'm reading, and I will check in with you at the end. If you can hear my fan, I'm sorry, but it's too hot to turn it off. I have to have it on. But I just finished The Bookish Life of Nina Hill, and I think I liked it, but I don't think I loved it. So this one is about Nina Hill, who is a bookish lady. She works at a bookstore, she has a cat, she's very solitude, and she likes being that way. I mean, she gets out enough, she socializes with like her monthly book club, and she goes to trivia nights all the time, and so she has her friends. She just likes to be alone, and there's no problem with that. She also has my birthday, which made me like her much more. But she one day finds out that her biological father that she never knew has died, and she has like 3 siblings and a ton of nieces and nephews that suddenly pop up in her life, and there is a will reading that she has to go to, and she's kind of unsure on how she feels about this because she never knew about her father and she was doing just fine without him. Also, there is a man that she knows through trivia night, and she's really intrigued by him, and he seems to like her and asks her out, and she's not sure how she wants to go about having a relationship, if she even wants one, because she likes being alone. And so I feel like the book just kind of didn't ever flesh out both of those storylines enough. I felt like it did the bare minimum to make us intrigued and want to know what was going to happen, but really when it came down to it, like, I just feel like we didn't get to see enough relationship development with Nina and her siblings and her nieces and nephews, and I didn't feel like we got to really see the relationship between her and Tom, the guy from trivia night. So it just wasn't amazing, but it was sweet. Like, I liked Nina's character. I like that it had some anxiety representation and how she deals with that, and learning about her family and some of their medical histories and stuff and their similarities. But the romance part was really lackluster. I didn't ever connect to them at all. It just felt very one-dimensional for that relationship. And then there was like a whole point in there where he kind of did something annoying, but I understood his point of view. Like, Nina kind of messed up in one way, but it was just not fully resolved after that 3rd act drama, you know? So it's okay, take it or leave it. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read, wasn't the best book, but it was very neutral, so I did give it 3 stars, but it is what it is. But I do really like this cover though, you know? Anyway, on to the next book for this vlog. I'm assuming it's recent reads part 2. I don't have all my timelines up to date. I have just started Vicious, and I figured I would just do like an immediate check-in on how I'm feeling about it, because it is a little bit heavier than I anticipated it being, even though I had heard that you definitely need to check like content warnings if you are easily triggered. And it's not that I'm triggered by anything that is going on in this, it's just more that it's so stressful because it is pretty dark. So this is basically about 2 boys who are in college, it seems like, and one is named Victor, and he's our main character, or that's at least whose point of view we've been reading since the beginning. And then he has a best friend and roommate named Eli, and you get like the sense that they are not quite best friends, but also a little bit of rivals, and they are coming up with a thesis for the year. They're both in like medical school in a way. I'm not entirely sure if that's correct, but Eli's thesis is about extraordinary people and how they can get their powers or something. And so he comes up with a theory that like if people are on the brink of death or have died and are brought back to life or have like a near-death experience, that is something that can trigger somebody to become an extraordinary person. And so both of these boys decide that they are going to put themselves in near-death experiences and revive each other and then see if that will get them any powers. And so that's basically as far as I've gotten in this one, and those suicide scenes were kind of rough. I was like a little bit sick to my stomach reading them. I don't know, it just like terrifies me, that thought. So that is something to look out for if that is something that would trigger you, because it was like making my heart race a little bit just like hearing the descriptions of them and, you know, like just feeling the terror. I don't know, so it's rough, but I'm intrigued. I want to keep reading, but I also really need to get ready for bed because it is hot and I just need to like lay down on my bed and like cool sheets and cool down a little bit. I'm gonna read another book, but I'm not talking about that one in this vlog. So yeah, I'm liking this so far. I don't know if I will update throughout unless like I have big feelings throughout this, so you might see how I feel overall at the end, but you will find out when I find out what I'm gonna do. All right, before I forget to film this clip, let's talk about Vicious. I just finished it. I did not feel like bringing it over to my bed with me, but it was okay. All right, so I feel like a disappointment in saying that I didn't absolutely love it. I did rate it 4 stars because I felt like the writing was really, really good, and I can see why people enjoy the book, but as a personal opinion about it, the way I felt about it, it did not go where I expected it to. So I had in my mind, I don't know how I misunderstood what it was about, but I thought that in becoming a extraordinary person that you had to have a near-death experience, but the more near-death experiences you have, the more powerful you were able to get. And that, I don't know if I just misunderstood how people were explaining it, but that was not what happened. So I was a little confused by my own expectations and the book not meeting it, and I also felt like the pacing was just a little off for what I wanted it to do. So it's like this book is pitched as like best friends to enemies, and I really didn't feel like they were ever truly best friends. So I was hoping that going into this we'd get like this big backstory about these two people working together and being best friends throughout college and like supporting each other and then turning on each other. So that's what I anticipated going into that, but we just got this really fast track like, oh yeah, they're best friends, but are they? Because they're kind of like rivals in a way. Oh, they're a little bit like not fully moral. They're like, just there's something a little bit off about both of them, that you know that they're not trustworthy and they're not, I don't know, they just kind of seemed a little bit unhinged in like a slight way that made me not really care for them, and everything felt disingenuous between them and their friendship, and everything's just so fast-tracked on how it all happens. So I never really got connected to them, and I don't think that's the point, because they are, like, the series is called Villains. Like, they are villains, and you can see that from the very beginning that both of these men are villains. So I don't think you're supposed to connect with them, but I just expected to see their downfall happen instead of starting off with just like privileged white men who think they're smarter than everybody, who then become superheroes, you know? So I think that was my biggest disappointment. But once I got through that disappointment, I found characters that I liked, and I found plot lines that I liked as well, and there were some shocking twists and turns that I did not expect to happen, because I thought it was a YA story, and when I looked on Goodreads it says it's adult. So there were some like points where like it went further than I anticipated it to go, you know? So if any of that made sense, I hope that it did, because I am a little tired, and I'm also just like, it's too warm. My house is very, very warm today. It was 84 degrees in my house. I'm just so uncomfy all day. But I hope any of that made sense. I don't know. I might refilm this clip eventually, but it was okay. I appreciate it for what it was. It wasn't my kind of story, but I can recommend it to other people, you know? So, on to the next book. Hello. Okay, I'm sleepy, but I have the camera up, so I might as well talk about this book. I cannot tell you if I did a halfway point check-in, an initial check-in at all. So we're just gonna do the full thing right here. Basically, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It had some problems, but it also had some moments that were pretty decent. So this one is about a woman named Honora, and she is a medium, and she has always been able to see ghosts, and one day the ghosts start getting a little bit strange, at least the ones that she's like familiar with, and she is unsure what's happening, and later finds out that she's being hunted by demons. And the man, Ethan, is a demon hunter, and he comes in and is kind of helping her out with this whole her being hunted by demons thing. But that is the most simplistic way I can put this, because there is so much else that goes on. Her getting an inheritance, and her finding out secrets from her family life, and other things targeting her and coming after her. And there's stuff with Ethan that's not really like a mystery in this book, but like finding out the ties that he has to other occult-like people in this book, I guess. I don't know how else to explain this without giving too many spoilers for anyone who might even want to read this one. But there was just a lot going on in it, a lot of characters to keep track of. Her brother's name was Harrison and her dog's name was Hunter, and I kept getting them confused, and that was the weirdest thing for me too, where it'd be like, Harrison said this, and I would just think, how did the dog talk? And then I'd have to remind myself who that was. So just one of those random things that like get you in books sometimes. So it just had a lot that confused me, a lot that I didn't love. There were a few moments where I felt like the author forgot what her plot was. There was a lot of unnecessary dialogue. So much unnecessary dialogue, and I love dialogue, I do, but there was one point where she was at a grocery store and she was just talking to the person, and I don't know why it mattered, you know? So you could tell this was definitely like a self-published book, but it wasn't bad. Like, I wouldn't say like this is the worst book I've ever read, because there are books that I've read that are much worse, but it just felt so long after a while, and I just wasn't loving it. Also, I believe I saw a TikTok with the author who said that she based him off of Dean Winchester, and it just was not Dean Winchester enough for me personally, as a Dean Winchester fangirl who has written fan fiction in Dean Winchester's point of view, who feels like she understands Dean Winchester. Like, maybe I could see a comparison to like season 1, season 2 Dean Winchester. Oh wow, it was fine. I could have done without it. I will not continue on in the series, even though most of the other books are on Kindle Unlimited, but it is what it is. This will probably go to a little free library, and that's okay. Somebody might love this. But that is my update. I have been sleeping like garbage, so I look like I am so tired. Like, I look like I'm running on 4 hours of sleep. So hopefully I will be more rested in the next clip that you see me in. I don't know what it is. I think it's just like the change of temperature. It's really hard to fall asleep in a very warm room, you know? It happens. Okay, anyway, you don't care about my sleep habits. See you later. Okay, hello. So I am getting ready for bed, and I have just spent the past hour or two trying to make a dent in The Wolf and the Woodsman, because I'm not loving it. When I picked it up, I read like the first couple of chapters and I just wasn't really getting into it. I don't know. So I really tried to push myself today, but it is late and I do need to go to bed. But I did have like a moment where I had a bit of an epiphany of why I think I might not like this, and it has to do with the enemies to lovers aspect. So if you've been around, I don't really like enemies to lovers. That is something that I have established over the years on this channel, but I think this book is pointing out one of the reasons why I don't always love enemies to lovers, especially in fantasy books. So in this, we have a woman whose name is Eva K, I believe, and she is from a pagan village who every year, maybe not every year, but very often these woodsmen come in and take one of their girls away because of, I think, the king commanding it. I'm not entirely certain, but they come in and take one of the girls, and Eva K's mother was taken like 10 years ago. She's been living without a mother for a very long time. So that establishes why she hates the woodsman who does eventually come and takes her. And I think the woodsmen just have a issue with the religion that the pagan women are living under. So that is why Gaspar hates Eva K, right? Okay, they're enemies, but they have instant attraction, and that just annoys the crap out of me. I want to see an enemies to lovers where they are enemies for the longest time, like up at least until 50%. I don't care if they are attracted to each other. I don't want to hear that they are attracted to each other. I want them to hate the other person. I want them to not want to be near the other person, to not want to help the other person unless they have to, because it will keep them alive and they have to get from point A to point B. Like, I want it to be so begrudgingly done that you can feel the hatred, you know? Like, I want them to truly be enemies and slowly have to figure out, like, oh, I might actually kind of like this person. Like, I just don't care about attraction. I don't care about attraction because it doesn't mean anything. Like, if you can't trust this person, if you hate this person, like, I don't care that you're going to end up in a relationship. So every time an enemies to lovers, like, it's just writing on them being like super attracted to each other at the beginning, it makes me not care for a lot of the kind things that they do to each other, because you just know, like, oh yeah, well, they're attracted to each other, so obviously they want to get together, if that makes any sense, you know? I just think it would be so much more impactful with enemies to lovers if you don't really know how they feel about the other person's attraction level besides like one line when they first see them, and that's it. And you just hear how much they don't trust them, how badly they want to get away from that person. And I don't know, I just feel like it kind of cheapens the plot for me. So I'm just like not interested in them very much, because they're already showing like, well, he's really beautiful and he's already doing like kind things for her at this point, and things were happening that were even kind like a little bit before this too. So it just doesn't feel enemies enough in my opinion. So I hope that wasn't like too much of a ramble. I did have to film this clip twice because the first ramble was like 7 minutes long, so hopefully I condensed it just a little bit. But yeah, I just want the enemies to last a little bit longer and go a little bit harder. Like, I don't want bullying, I don't want that. Like, I don't want somebody like hurting the other person, but I do want them to just have to build so much trust and tentatively form a friendship and then realize, ah, I'm kind of attracted to this person, you know? But anyway, whatever, we can't all get what we want. So I need to finish getting ready for bed. I should have been attempting to do that while I was speaking, but whatever, I can't do two things at once, so I'm gonna go. All right, I will see you when I finish this book out. This is my formal apology to nerdy narrates. Some of them are wins, okay? I love Dark as the Night series, okay? There are other books that it has recommended or has read that I have loved, but I DNF'd A Wolf in the Woodsman. I DNF'd it. I tried so hard to connect these characters, to connect to what was happening, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Focus on me, please. Hello? Hello? I don't know why it's not focusing on me. What is it? Not on my books. What is going on? Hello? There we go. That took a while. But yeah, I couldn't do it. I can't explain it. I wish I had the words, but I feel like I don't have the vocabulary to explain why I just don't like this very much. But essentially it reminded me a lot of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, where things happen very, very quickly. I feel like I've said this a million times, but I can read a book about characters that do absolutely nothing. Like, I could go through their day-to-day life, brushing their teeth, tying their shoes, picking out their outfits, and absolutely fall in love with it. But if I don't feel a connection to characters and they are doing a bunch of stuff like is happening in this book, I don't care. It just kept going on and on and on, and there was so much happening that I couldn't keep track of what was happening. There were so many new characters introduced like every single chapter, and the pacing was too fast for me. I couldn't keep up, and I didn't care about the relationship. I already complained about the whole speed run of enemies to lovers, you know? I wasn't a fan of that, and I just felt like I got to the 60% mark and I didn't care. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care what was going on with them, and I just didn't understand. I don't think I'm smart enough for books like this, and even books like We Hunt the Flame, which was another recommendation that I didn't love. I just don't think I'm smart enough. I don't know, it's like things get very detailed and I just can't keep track of it all. And there's just something about these characters that I didn't care for. I feel like I don't know anything about either of the characters besides like who they are to their people, and I don't know what their desires are, and I just probably was skimming over those parts because it wasn't making sense and I was tuning things out. So I feel so bad that I hated this book. I don't hate it. I didn't hate it. I just don't think my brain is able to comprehend things like this yet. So maybe I just need a little bit more time with fantasy and other types of books similar to this that like bridge the gap, because I wish I liked it. Like, there were parts of it that were really cool, and the first line of this book is probably the best line I've ever heard in a book. The trees have to be tied down by sunset. When the woodsmen come, they always try to run. Like, that is the best opening line of any book I think I've ever read, and I wish that the rest of the book like really drew me in like that. I don't know what it is. I wish I had the vocabulary to explain why it just doesn't work for me, but there's something that I felt like I was just reading words. There was no movie playing in my head. There was nothing that I could visualize for myself, and maybe it's just because I'm not familiar with some of the terms. I don't know. I'm making up a million excuses. I just feel so bad that I didn't like it, and I wanted to so bad. I pushed to 60% and then I decided to not keep going. But I think I might keep this on my shelves as like I'll return to this in a year or two and see if my brain has like expanded in its knowledge and can understand this better. But I'm sorry. Don't disown me, okay? I'm sorry. Okay, on to the next read. Nat, the next one you recommend that I pick up, it's gonna win. It's gonna win, okay? It's gonna. I promise. So we have a 5-star. I finished this a couple of days ago, but I got sick and my throat has just been like really scratchy and tickly, so I didn't want to film anything. I was trying to like rest my voice, but it's still not going away. So here we are talking about this book. So have I introduced this at all? I don't think so. This is a book following a few women, 3 to be exact, Alpha, Violet, and Kate, and they are all related in one way or another, and each of these women all have like a really strong connection to nature in some way, and they also have some pretty poor relationships with some men in their lives. But it starts out with Alpha, and she is being tried for being a witch, and so we follow her journey and figure out what happens with her being tried for being a witch. Then we have Violet, who is in the 1940s, I believe, and her father just doesn't really enjoy her. He's also keeping a lot of secrets about like who her mother was, like what her mother enjoyed to do. Anything to do with her mother, like Violet is not allowed to know, and she just feels very alone and forced into like a box of what she's allowed to be when she knows that she is like a wild child, wants to go out in nature, and has a strong connection to insects and birds and just loves nature so badly that she just wants to roam free, and her father just wants to rein her in. Then we have Kate, who is in a very abusive relationship and needs to get out of it very badly, and so we figure out how all of these 3 women and their stories interconnect, even though centuries have passed in some of these cases, and it's just so good. It was so beautiful. It like really brought out that generational rage of women and everything that they've been put through, everything that men have accused them of and forced them into and done to them. It just really brought out that anger in me too, where you just know that like there are so many women in your own family line who probably went through similar things or interacted with similar sorts of men, and it just made me so angry but so happy to also see them find their strength toward the end of it. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It also reminded me of that popular song that was just on TikTok a couple weeks ago called Labor, and I felt like it fit it perfectly. Like I kept like playing the song in my mind as I was reading this one. So I love this book a lot. It was so beautiful, and the cover lives up to the way it made me feel. So I'm so happy that we had a 5-star here. And I think that's all I have to say. All right. Did you notice that those last 2 clips were filmed in the exact same outfit? That's because I filmed them back to back and didn't realize that they were meant to go in the same video until I was uploading them and went, why did I just not connect those clips together? I don't know. That was very strange of me to do. But I have officially completed these 5 books though, which means that we brought ourselves down from 121 down to 116 books on my physical TBR, which still feels like so freaking many. I feel like I'm reading constantly, yet none of the books are really making that much of a dent on this shelf. It might be because I'm reading like 100,000 word fan fictions, so I am reading constantly. It just doesn't happen to be books on my TBR, which is a problem. But yeah, let's not celebrate too quickly because I do need to talk to you about the haul that I did. So I did buy a couple of books, starting with I did have to buy Weyward to be able to read Weyward since it was part of my book club, which is also where Self-Made Boys came in. So I had to buy both of these books, and while I was at the bookstore buying them, I saw this book called Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, which a friend had recommended to me because he said that he really enjoys Neil Gaiman books, and I always get Neil Gaiman and Patrick Ness confused, so I never pick up Neil Gaiman books, but I think I will like those more than all of the Patrick Ness books I've tried to read. So I got these all at the same store. And then, you know, Book Depository decided to no longer be a company anymore, and I have a thing with Brandon Sanderson books where I want all of the ones that have this white spine, the UK editions. So because it was closing, I needed to get the Stormlight Archive, and so I bought all of the books, which so happened to be part 1 and part 2s, but we're just going to count them as 4 books instead of the 8 books that it actually is, because I'm not counting an additional 4 books when I don't need to, because they are just part 1 and part 2s. So I also bought this series because I just wanted them in the matching covers, okay? I have all of my Mistborn ones. You can't probably tell, but they're all right here. They're all in the same colors. They look beautiful together. I just needed the Stormlight ones to also match. So yeah, that brought us right back up to 123 books. It's cool. It's cool. It's totally fine. I will say though that I am filming other videos outside of just these at a time. Like I'm filming at least 2 or 3 at a time. So my physical TBR shelf is actually lower than that, but for the sake of this video and continuity, we're at 123 again. So I have to get reading. I really have to get reading, and hopefully some other videos can come out soon and you can see those numbers too. But yeah, if you have made it this far, thank you so much. Go ahead and leave me, I don't know, are there any white emojis to match these books? White or red, you know, there's like the red sun. Other than that, that is all that I have. I need to go finish editing this video so you can see it literally today, because it needs to go out today. All right, goodbye.